Please note that the content of this video may contain errors. If you would like to view subtitles, please click the subtitle button at the bottom right of the screen. Now, let's begin our topic, the life of Yasuoka Kasuke. Through the life of Yasuoka Kasuke, we will explore his importance and influence in Japan's modernization. Japan at the end of the Edo period was a time of great turmoil, both domestically and internationally. At the time, the Edo shogunate continued to rule, but Western powers were pressuring Japan to open its doors to the world. The economic and military ambitions of Western countries were behind this. In particular, the arrival of American Commodore Perry in Uraga aboard his black ships in 1853 deeply shook Japan. Faced by this demand to open the country, the shogunate engaged in heated debate over whether to open the country or continue its isolation. Opinions were divided not only within the shogunate, but also among the various feudal domains. For example, the Choshu domain, which advocated the Sano-joi revere the emperor and expel the barbarians, strongly opposed the shogunate's policy of opening the country. As these domestic conflicts intensified, in 1864, the Choshu clan challenged the shogunate to war, resulting in the Kinmen incident. The shogunate won, but this was only temporary. The movement to overthrow the shogunate, including the Choshu clan, continued to gain momentum. At the same time, economic instability within the country put a strain on people's lives. Continuing bad weather and famines caused rice prices to soar. The common people were struggling, and the shogunate was unable to take effective measures, leading to growing discontent. Faced by both internal and external threats, the shogunate gradually lost its power to govern. In the midst of this, the anti-foreign faction of the Satsuma domain, led by Seigo Takamoi and Nokubo Toshimichi, began preparations to overthrow the shogunate. In particular, Satsuma and Choshu formed the Satsuma-Choshu alliance, working together to overthrow the shogunate. The momentum toward the Meiji Restoration accelerated thanks to the actions of these young patriots. Eventually, in 1867, Tokugawa Yoshinobu returned power to the emperor, bringing an end to the shogunate government that had lasted for over 300 years. Subsequently, with the establishment of the Meiji government, Japan began its path as a modern nation. However, this transformation was not limited to a simple overhaul of the political system. It marked a major turning point that transformed Japanese society and values themselves. Yasuoka Kasuke was born around 1850. During this period, Japan was facing the end of the feudal system and was in the midst of a period of great change. He was born in a region deeply rooted in scholarship and culture, and this environment had a profound influence on his life. The Yasuoka family was well respected in the local community, and his father was a man of great trust. His father adopted an educational policy that emphasized scholarship and ethics for his children. It is said that he also emphasized the importance of deepening knowledge to Kasuke from an early age. As a child, Kasuke attended a local temple school. At that time, temple schools focused on education in reading, writing, and arithmetic. Practical use in the local community was particularly emphasized. However, perhaps due to his family's policies, his educational environment was not limited to mere temple school studies. It was also used as an opportunity to gain a broader education. It is said that he never missed an opportunity to acquire foreign books or ideas that were rare in the area. Furthermore, renowned scholars and intellectuals often visited the Yasuoka family. Interacting with them would have also been a valuable learning experience for the young Yasuoka Kasuke. At that time, Japan was gradually and implicitly beginning to accept foreign cultures amid the great upheaval of the times. This also had an impact on his family. This complex interplay between his family environment and the characteristics of his region honed Yasuoka Yoshisuke's intellect and developed in him a strong interest and motivation for academics. He would gradually grow into a person with a broad perspective. Yasuoka Yoshisuke's youth was characterized by a deep involvement with academics. He studied the basics at a local private school during his childhood, then advanced to an educational institution in the national capital to pursue a more advanced education. Here, he delved deeply into the teachings of Confucianism, which was the center of scholarship at the time. The study of Confucianism had a profound impact not only on academic value, but also on character development. Yasuoka earned great respect, and as he deepened his intellectual exchanges with many peers, he also honed his leadership skills. At that time in China, a rigorous examination known as the imperial examination was held for promotion to the bureaucracy. For many young people, the imperial examination was the only way to gain social status. Due to its difficulty, many test takers struggled. Yasuoka also decided to accept this challenge. He studied day and night to master the wide range of knowledge that would be covered in the exam. However, rather than simply cramming knowledge, Yasuoka placed importance on developing his own ideas. He often reinterpreted history and philosophy from his own unique perspective. This would also become a unique strategy for his exam preparation. Even while preparing for exams, he maintained an interest in current affairs and international affairs. This would later lay the foundation for his rise as a diplomat. Taking the imperial examination was a personal challenge that went beyond mere academics. For Yasuoka, it was a chance to test his potential. His hard work and perseverance led to results that exceeded those around him. This success paved the way for his future success. After the Meiji Restoration, Japan rapidly modernized, but also faced the need to strengthen its relations with the outside world. From the end of the Edo period to the early Meiji period, as Western powers advanced, Japan's foreign policy was shaped amidst great internal and external turmoil. Amid this, Yasuoka Kasuke emerged as a key figure in the new government's foreign policy. His keen political sense and extensive knowledge were highly valued by the leadership of the time. The Meiji government sought to establish its own diplomacy in order to resist pressure from the great powers. Accordingly, the government sought to adopt European systems and technology while exploring a uniquely Japanese diplomatic path. Yasuoka played a key role in this process, demonstrating his skills in many areas. Influenced by the First Minister of Foreign Affairs, Okuma Shigenabu, he particularly focused on formulating basic foreign policy. He devoted himself to learning and absorbing Okuma's rational and flexible diplomatic approach. Yasuoka also repeatedly negotiated with Western countries in treaty negotiations and other matters, continually asserting Japan's position. His activities protected Japan's sovereignty and enhanced the nation's prestige. This was based on his own distinctive tenacity and outstanding negotiating skills. Furthermore, Yasuoka's bold proposals are essential to any discussion of Yasuoka. At one point, he proposed a revision to the Treaty of Amity and Commerce between Japan and the United States. Initially, it drew much opposition, but it was ultimately adopted by the government and concluded. This success further elevated Yasuoka's reputation as a diplomat. His actions not only enhanced Japan's diplomatic power, but also played an important role in mediating domestic opposition and criticism. Gaining the government's trust. Yasuoka Yoshisuke's visit to the United States was an important event that further deepened his political beliefs and skills. At the time, America was experiencing great economic and political growth due to rapid industrialization and technological innovation. There is no doubt that his exposure to this vibrant country greatly broadened Yasuoka's horizons. He keenly observed the American democracy and social system he witnessed during his visit, and how they contributed to the country's development. He was particularly influenced by the ideas of Abraham Lincoln, repeatedly reading his speeches and other writings. He became convinced of the arrival of a new era. Lincoln's humanity and leadership resonated with Yasuoka's own ideals. It became a source of energy for him to explore the possibilities of social reform in Japan. Through this visit, he strongly felt that progressive values should be incorporated into Japanese politics. During his stay in the United States, Yasuoka also deepened his interactions with experts and intellectuals in various fields. The knowledge he gained through discussions with politicians and scholars had a significant influence on his political stance in Japan. Through these encounters, he began to consider reform in Japan from an international perspective, leading to policymaking with a broader perspective. After returning to Japan, Yasuoka immediately put these influences into action. He proposed new policies in Japan based on the knowledge he gained in the United States, and actively promoted reform within the government. He particularly focused on themes such as educational reform and economic liberalization. He worked hard to foster an unprecedented spirit of innovation. Through Yasuoka's efforts, his reform-oriented ideas were gradually accepted by many politicians and bureaucrats. A wave of change spread throughout Japan. Thus, Yasuoka Kasuke's visit to the United States was a turning point in his life and a major step toward the modernization of Japan. This was a major step toward Japan's modernization. As Yasuoka Yoshisuke pursued his political activities in Japan, his unique perspective and worldview began to take shape. Particularly noteworthy was his drive to promote reform within the government. Japan was undergoing the Meiji era of reform at the time, and the country needed to respond to rapid modernization. Yasuoka was at the center of this movement and actively promoted reform. First, he aimed to overhaul the bureaucracy, promoting efficiency and specialization. This increased the government's credibility and functionality, contributing to domestic stability. Yasuoka also demonstrated remarkable diplomatic achievements. In particular, his efforts to conclude agreements with foreign countries produced significant results. He valued cooperation with other nations and worked hard as a bridge between trade and cultural exchange. He concluded treaties based on strategic partnerships, particularly with Western countries, thereby enhancing Japan's international standing. In this way, the policies and agreements promoted by Yasuoka Kasuke solidified Japan's foundation as a modern nation and became key players in paving the way for further development. His achievements, through his political activities both at home and abroad, paved the way for Japan to become an independent member of the New World. It can be said that Yasuoka Kasuke's most notable achievements were in the reform of the education system and the realization of social welfare. The educational reforms he promoted went beyond the mere transmission of knowledge. The goal was to deeply understand human nature. He strongly believed that education should be a tool for enhancing human character. This philosophy was widely accepted and had a significant influence on Japan's education system. In his educational reforms, Kasuke was keen to build a unique system, drawing inspiration from French and American systems. In his educational reforms, Kasuke was keen to build a unique system, taking inspiration from French and American systems. He was convinced that education could be a force for building the nation's future. To that end, he visited various places to see the situation firsthand and engaged in numerous discussions with intellectuals. This passion brought a new wind of academic learning to Japan that had not previously existed. At the same time, he also devoted himself to the realization of social welfare. At the time, Japan was rapidly modernizing, and economic disparities and urban overcrowding were becoming problems. In response to these social issues, Kasuke implemented policies that combined relief for the vulnerable with a spirit of self-help. He believed that providing education and opportunity rather than simple donations or charity would create sustainable welfare. As a result, support for self-reliance that went beyond charity work took root in society. Interestingly, his approach to social reform is said to have been deeply influenced by his visit to the United States. The spirit of freedom and independence in America merged with Kasuke's ideals, leading to a more evolved form of social reform in Japan. His work continues to have an impact today, not only saving the vulnerable, but also aiming to develop the skills that all people can utilize in society. Yasuoka Kasuke's achievements provide endless lessons that make us reconsider how we approach education and welfare. It offers endless lessons. Yasuoka Kasuke's activities in his later years are deeply rooted in his literary endeavors after his retirement from the government. He wrote many books based on his experiences and unique perspectives, greatly influencing his readers. In particular, his diplomatic experience is strongly reflected in pages that emphasize the importance of having an international perspective. This perspective also had a significant impact on his stance on domestic Japanese politics and social issues. He also devoted himself to nurturing the next generation of diplomatic talent who would lead the nation's future, and his articles have become valuable teaching materials for students of international relations. This was a valuable learning resource. It was believed that by learning the diverse perspectives he cultivated, people would be able to adapt flexibly to complex international situations. Furthermore, the social reform ideals that Yasuoka promoted were passed down to his successors, became the foundation for support for the socially disadvantaged and educational reform. Through his writings, many people had the opportunity to rethink their own attitudes and raise their social awareness. In the social structure of Japan at the time, the importance of reconsidering not only politics and economics, but also human values and social roles became widely recognized. His ideas led to widespread recognition. Furthermore, Yasuoka exchanged ideas with many people through salons and lectures, spreading his ideas. The people who gathered here were influenced by him and brought about social change in their respective fields. Through these activities, succeeding generations were able to acquire diverse perspectives and broader ways of thinking. Thus, while Yasuoka Kasuke's activities in his later years delved deeply into his own ideas, he left a great legacy by passing on his knowledge to future generations. His writings were not merely a way to boast about his own successes and accomplishments. He had the clear intention of improving society as a whole through them. When Yasuoka Kasuke passed away, he left a significant mark on Japan's modern history. His passing shocked many people both at home and abroad, and many condolences were expressed. Yasuoka's achievements are evident not only in what he established during his lifetime, but also in the ideas and values he left behind for future generations. The policies and social reforms he was involved in had a profound impact on Japan's future. Yasuoka valued not status or honor, but how to improve society as a whole. Many of his policies were not selfish, but rather were based on consideration for others and an eye toward the future. This attitude was widely disseminated through the numerous writings he left behind and the disciples who inherited his ideas. His influence extended beyond politicians to educators, thinkers, and even ordinary citizens. Even after Yasuoka's death, his ideals and principles remain strong, carried on by many successors, and continue to influence us to this day. In addition, new research and interpretations of Yasuoka are constantly emerging, and there is a movement to re-evaluate his achievements and influence. However, evaluations are not uniform. His policies and ideas have been met with mixed reviews. Controversy has been divided, particularly over his stance on international relations. Still, the changes he brought about and his spirit have served as a guide for many people throughout the ages. Even after his death, Yasuoka Kasuke continues to show many people the path he blazed. Let's take this opportunity to look back on Yasuoka Kasuke's life and consider how his influence lives on in Japan today. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and rate it.